Hello and welcome to Innovative Monitor FM, the podcast where we dive into the careers of prominent talent within the Machinima community. Today's special guest is none other than Dan Renko. He's known mostly as the founder and owner of Lazy Bunch channel here on YouTube, creating the Perfect Soldier franchise spanning 4 separate seasons to this date. Part of the Perfect Soldier franchise has gained substantial views, including Lone Wolves with 28,000 views and his new series Reclaimer clocking in at 3,400. His new series, Lone Wolves Extraction, debates winter of 2022, so make sure to be on the lookout for that. I'm your host, Camden Crawford, and Dan, welcome to the show, my friend. How have you been?
Hey, Cam. I've been good. This 2022 has kicked off with a weird, energy. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of projects for me, but it's been good so far. It's been a good year so far. How have you been?
I'm doing great. There's a lot of stuff going on with Innovative now launching, and so right. I'm just like in the mix of a whole bunch of stuff, and so I'm glad that you and I got a chance to sit down and chat.
Yes. I'm happy, man. It's funny, like you were just telling me how we've interacted with each other a lot in the community. I think I've done a project for you. You've done a project for me here and there, but like this is our first time actually interacting full on actually having a conversation.
Yeah, we never were over voice. It was always just a couple text messages like, hey, can you do lines for this? Hey, can you body act?
Yep.
Hey, here's the thing for GMAs. And so that's all that we would ever talk about. And so it's nice to actually just sit down and talk.
Yeah, exactly. I like this. This is nice.
Yeah, 100%. So starting off, I just kind of want to talk about, so Machinima wasn't really where you started, even on YouTube here. You had short skits like, I'm going to unlock something in your memory, Bobby the Butcher and How to Kill a Zombie.
Yep.
Like, what created the switch to get you into Halo Machinima that really became the staple of your channel?
Oh my gosh. So funny. Yeah. So all those shorts and videos that we did back in, I think it was 2010 or 2011, all those videos we did were me and my high school film class. And we have always wanted to do a big project, a big war story or something that was really intricate. At the time, we were very much into. Lost came out a couple years before that, but we were really much into Lost at the time. So we were really all intense storylines and really into backstories and everything, but. So we were doing all these short videos, these music videos, these short films, and then Red vs. Blue Season 8 came out, and I think, oh my gosh, it's part of the recollection. I don't remember which one it's called. I think it's oh my gosh. It's Season 8. It's the one with Monty and how he did all those special effects and all the crazy action and everything.
It was the Freelancers franchise, right?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying it's the Freelancers, right? That was Season 8? Or was that 9?
I think that's 9. That's the.
Okay.
The last one they did in Halo 3. I don't remember.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah. So that whatever season that was, the first one with all the cool special effects and everything, we saw that and immediately said, "Let's make a Halo Machinima." So, and around the time Halo Reach was just coming out, so we were really much into the idea of doing this very intricate, deep war story. And I wrote the scripts for it, but everyone kind of played a hand in the creation of it and their characters and everything. And that's kind of how it all started. We were just a bunch of people in a classroom talking about all these cool stories and everything. And funny enough, we made this show with anticipation that it was going to last years and years and years, but we didn't realize, oh, hey, we're high schoolers graduating. We're all going to go to colleges and everything like that. So we created Perfect Soldier Evolution, and we had this whole big plan for all these characters afterwards. But because we're all going to separate places doing our own things, we decided to create this ending that was open and shut. Okay, all these characters are done with. And then years later, I came back, revived the franchise, and took some inspiration from all the other stories that we had originally laid out. And that created Perfect Soldier Elimination, Lone Wolves, and now recently Reclaimer.
Yeah, and you kind of stole some of my talking points now.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, no, you don't have to be sorry. It's funny, like, but as you mentioned, this franchise has now spanned 4 seasons with Evolution, Elimination, Lone Wolves, Reclaimer, and now with Lone Wolves Extraction coming this winter. What is making you actually want to stick with this franchise for so long? I know you mentioned that you had multiple seasons like planned out way back in 2011, but now, like, what is making you not move on to a different universe and just sticking with these characters?
It's funny you say that, because I don't remember if it was you or someone else, but someone asked me if I wanted to create a machinima outside of this universe, and I don't remember what my exact answer was, but like, I've tried so many times to just write something outside of this or create like a comedy that doesn't have anything to do with this universe, but every time I create a character, I'm like, it would be cool if this character interacted with that character, or if like this villain stepped in and took the role of that villain for that other thing. And I don't know, just it's like the Marvel Cinematic Universe type of deal, where it's like you have all these characters, and yeah, they could all do their own things and all go to their all separate places, but the fact that they could interact with each other and possibly do like an Avengers type storyline, like, that's just, I don't know, just that is so interesting. And the fact that I could have this villain from this storyline, be the villain for that other storyline because they exist in this universe. I don't know, it's just one of those things where like every time I've tried to step out of it, I just keep going back in.
So with that, I guess I can have a little spin on that question. So what if someone was asking you to collaborate with some totally other series, like say you, myself, and let's just name someone else, Lawman, for instance. Say we all had our separate channels and we're like, let's create a Machinima universe together. Is that something you would ever be interested in if someone came up to you and was like, let's all create an original Machinima that's in this new universe?
How would that like play out? I would definitely be on board for doing something like that. I know a lot of people have talked about doing things like that, or at least expressed interest in doing things like that before, and it's one of those things where like I said, I would be 100% for. I know these things take a little bit of time to really coordinate and figure out. I guess figuring out what brings all these universes together and what separates them, and that's kind of what I've been kind of struggling with as well, because I have, Lone Wolves and Reclaimer, and they're both very different shows, but at the same time, there's something that when I was writing with Javelin, I brought him on because I was actually struggling with this. How do we separate these universes, but still keep it cohesive enough where it's like, okay, this is part of this storyline, and that location has appeared before. How do we revisit it, but still make it like fresh, while also, making it seem like it's still important and relevant to the other storyline that it was in. So it's one of those things where like a lot of planning is involved, and I would definitely be on board with, doing a series with another creator, or like you said, collaborating with a bunch of other creators. But I think it's one of those things where like we should first sit down, chat about it, figure out what exactly are these long-term goals, and just see how can we make this all work, because I know a lot of creators who have wanted to do something like this and they just rush into it, and then they don't follow through on it, or something collapses and they can't make it happen. It's one of those, it's a lot of dedication. I'll tell you that.
Oh, 100%. And like, especially with like how the Machinima community is now, we're not back in 2010, 2011.
No.
When everybody was a part of this. Like, everyone is kind of in their own universes. I think it's like funny with what that is, like even with your Perfect Soldier universe, it kind of can be a homage to kind of how the community is as a whole, because your Lazy Bunch has its own universe, then there's Polycore, they have their own universe, and everyone is just kind of in their own bubbles in their own Discord server, so it's kind of hard to like branch out and to like say, hey, I want to make this Machinima thing with you.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, it's so weird how different things have been over this decade. Like you said, 2010, 2011 was Halo Reach, and arguably one of the highest points in Machinima in general. But now it's so much different now, and it's weird to say that. I feel so old.
Well, it's like it's rare to see like how big projects will be. I mean, like we remember like Defense of Earth getting like over 1 million views. We remember the series from Nightmare Films. What was it? The zombie. The
oh my gosh, Running Dead.
The Running Dead gaining just over 1.2 million views for his machinima. And then we have, I think the only recent successes we're seeing is with the Great Isaiah with his new zombie series. And it's just interesting how it's changed, how way back we've been able to, even dumb videos done on a camcorder were able to gain like 10,000 views, and then now today we have these huge productions and we are not gaining that same amount of views. How does that kind of bring your motivation with this? I know views is not everything, but how does that kind of like impact your motivation to create these grand epic storylines?
I will definitely say, while I don't want it to be about views definitely does have, it definitely, like my brother and I, we love looking at the analytics of, these channels and everything, and these, like realizing what views, what people like the most is kind of does help us a little bit, but I think for motivation wise, it's one of those things where, like, I mean, there are days where, I get down on myself. I'm like, why this one didn't reach 1,000 yet, or that one didn't get the 1 million views that I dreamt about. But it's one of those things where, like, I still love creating these universes. I love telling the stories about these characters and seeing where they go. I mean, a lot of these stories, arguably all the stories I write, have a lot of me in them. Like, Lone Wolves is about trust and about who can you trust and how can you move forward with your life and everything. And a lot of that was inspired by the fact that I came back to the Machinima community having no idea, what's going on now, like who can I actually talk to about these Machinima problems. And Lost Hobo Films he helped me with a lot of things. He gave me a lot of tips and tricks when I came back, but it's just one of those things where, like, I pour myself into these characters, and in a lot of ways, writing and Machinima have been kind of my way to kind of not like cope with reality, but just kind of like it's who I am. I love writing. I love telling these stories, and there's no way I'm gonna go out and get $1 million budget and film a story about a tank, but but with Machinima, I could do that. I could travel to all these places. I could film at all these locations and do all these cool things with all these cool characters. So, I mean, obviously there's limitations with Halo and everything, but it's still like Machinima has been a part of me for the past decade. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, even at a time when I'm not feeling up to making a Machinima, I find myself either writing my next Machinima or, sketching out drawings of a potential Machinima, and then it's like, hey, that's something I'm going to use in 2 years from now.
Right? And bouncing off that is that you've kind of created this very niche community within like the Lazy Bunch that are just like very dedicated, that always want to ask questions with your in your Ask Dan section, or create like been very hyped about like your less watch videos, which we'll definitely get into later. But I think it's just a testament to like this community that you've grown in the past couple years since you've like come back and you made Perfect Soldier Elimination, and then you came back and made like Lost Wolves and Reclaimer, and you've just consistently built on this community that have just stuck with you. Like how is that for you, as like just knowing that there's a group of people that consistently want to see that content from you?
It's absolutely it's rewarding, and that's the best thing about it. It's one of those things where, like, I love telling these stories and everything, and I love writing these characters, but at the end of the day, there are people who have actually reached out to me and said, I remember how it was when I went to high school or started high school, and I had no friends and I didn't know who to trust and everything. And then watching Lone Wolves, this whole big story arc about someone who learns how to trust other people, or Reclaimer learning how to redeem yourself. Just like hearing about these people's stories, like it really means a lot. And for this little community, like, I know my Discord server isn't the largest in the community. I mean, there are other Machinima servers out there that are much bigger, or communities that are much bigger, but it's funny, like, I go back to my Discord server, and it's so nice to, like, you know, interact with some of the people on there who are just talking about, like, the things I've written and the things I've created, and it's really cool. It's super awesome. But it's funny you mentioned that, though. I don't know if you know Cannonball 066.
Yes.
A couple of years ago, he came up. I interacted with him for the first time, and he's like, "I watched your Perfect Soldier Evolution when I was like 10 years old." Oh no, like when he was like 8 years old, and I'm like, "Wow, wow."
That's throwing it way back for you, I guess.
Yep,
you're trying.
Yep. It's like
I'm guessing you're trying to avoid.
It's like hearing about these stories about these people who have like seen these shows years and years ago. It's just incredible, you know. It's amazing how, you know, that something I wrote can inspire someone else, and you know, it's great to be a part of this community, and I'm glad and grateful for all the people who have reached out to me and who have been a part of it, just like you.
Yeah. And it's been a pleasure to kind of actually get to know you more and have you actually do some voice acting and things like that with you. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of what's nice about this community as a whole, is that everyone knows everybody.
Yeah.
And you can, whether they're nice or not, that's beside the point, but you can pretty much message anyone in the community and just be like, even if they're like the biggest YouTuber of our small niche hobby, that you can still message them and you have the chance of them actually responding. And I think that's what's kind of cool about this little group.
That's the most amazing part about it. Like I said, when I first came back, I didn't know anyone, so I messaged Lost Hobo Films, and ironically, he actually went to my casting call for Perfect Soldier Elimination, and he submitted a casting call audition, and then I reached out to him like, "Whoa, dude, you have like 5,000 subscribers and you have all these views and everything. Like, what are you doing just like auditioning for my little project? I am a nobody." And he's just like, everyone is helping everyone. That's just the way this community is. And, you know, that's, you know, literally the year I came back, like that's what he told me. And you're right. It's really cool how we all interact with each other. And, you know, like you said, there are some people who are really nice, some people who are not, and we all kind of know each other. But it's just at the end of the day, it's funny how we all know each other. We're all like even if we aren't like interacting on a daily basis, we're all kind of like friends of this community. We all know each other, and you know, it's really cool to be a part of this family.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
Take a little break from Machinima, and we're going to talk about, like, tell me about being a cast member, mate. I mean, in recent times, you have gone full force into making these shorts referring to your time being a Disney photographer in the Magic Kingdom.
Oh, yes.
And, like, what did you enjoy about that, and, like, what made you bring this series to your channel?
So for people who don't know, I worked at Disney for 3 years. I worked at Walt Disney World. I was a photographer, mostly working on Main Street. I mean, I worked in a lot of different parts of the parks, but Disney has been such an important part of me. I mean, we all love Disney movies. I mean, I love Marvel, Star Wars, but Disney has always been such an important part of my life. Like right after college, my first job was a photographer at Disney. And even though it wasn't my dream LA being a director for Star Trek job, it was still really cool. Like I loved working at Disney, and I actually met my wife at the Magic Kingdom. We were both photographers, and we got married at Disney. So it's just one of those things where like Disney has always been a part of my life, but it wasn't until recently when I was like, you know what, I should probably just do some funny little skits on the interactions that I had at Disney, because there are so many, like, there are great moments, and then there are the crazy moments. Like, with any customer service-based job, there's always going to be those crazy people who ask you crazy, insane questions that you never thought would be asked. But with Disney, I had some stories. I had a lot of stories.
Which one of those I actually want you to touch on a little more. So one of those episodes of of your cast member episodes, you had someone ask you to turn the castle. How real is that? And like, what did you say in that reaction? I just find that hilarious.
That was a 100% real question. Every interaction that I had that I made a video on, those are all real interactions. I kid you not. So the rotating the castle thing, that was the most baffling question I've ever had in any job. And like when they asked me, I didn't even know what to even say because I thought they were joking at first. And they're like, can you rotate the castle? Can you have it turn? And I'm like, okay, I mean, yeah, let me just get right on that. So I positioned them and everything. Family gets close together, ready for photos. And I think it was the dad who just kept pushing it. Is like, no, really, is it going to turn? Is it going to move? And I'm like, no. Why do you think that? And it's just, I don't know. Some people just amaze me sometimes.
Thinks you have a little turn dial in like your wallet and you can just turn it at will. And so
I guess, I don't know. And like, it's funny because like every cast member had their own interactions and crazy stories. Like my wife, I joke that I had some of the craziest people. I had a lot of good people too, but my wife always had the bad people. Her favorite story to tell was she was taking photographs with Ariel. Families would come and see Ariel and they would sit down and take a photo with her and they'll be on their way. But there was one time a dad got his daughter's lollipop stuck in my wife's hair and blamed my wife for it and said, if your hair wasn't so long, we wouldn't have this problem.
That's hilarious.
Yep. So it's one of those things where like there is just some interesting stories that I have to tell. And it's one of those where, you know, I know my brother, he makes a lot of gaming related videos, but that's kind of like the humor he has too. He does a lot of like, you know, character interaction videos. And I just figured, well, I worked at Disney and let me try to do something kind of like him. So that's where the series came about.
So you have another series though we touched on earlier called Let's Watch. How do you? Oh yeah. How did that kind of come about, and like how do you choose what you're going to watch in those episodes? And have you seen any of them before, or are they just fresh reactions?
So the Let's Watch series, I don't remember when I started doing those exactly, but I remember I really wanted to do something like that years and years ago. I think it was Running Dead from Nightmare Films that I was like, oh my gosh, I should do a live reaction to this. And then I never did that. And then years later, I came back and did these other series. But the Let's Watch series, I'm not really sure where exactly it came about. I just decided to start doing my live reactions to them. And you know, it was one of those things where like a lot of creators were telling me like, oh yeah, I liked Lone Wolves, I liked Reclaimer. But it was one of those things where I'm like, well, what if I could tell you how much I enjoyed it, but what if I just showed you? So I did like a kind of like a mock Let's Watch of one of Lost Hobo Films, like recent episodes. And I did that and I shared it to him like, hey, look, man, this is kind of what, you know, this is what I thought of it. So here's a live reaction of me reacting to the episode. And he loved it. And then I just kind of went from there, just made other Let's Watches for other machinimas. As for how I choose which machinima I do, I've gotten suggestions to do certain videos. But other than that, it's honestly been kind of random because there's so many machinimas to watch. And I try to watch machinimas that are like kind of relevant, quote unquote. Like I'll still pick up a machinima that came out like 3 or 4 years ago, but I try to watch machinimas that are like recent. That way it's like, okay, it's fresh in everyone's minds. Everyone's seen this. So let me just show you my reaction to that. But yeah, that's kind of how it's gone. It's been kind of randomized, or someone would suggest something and I would just go for it.
And I find it most funny about your Let's Watch series is that there's about 5 people in your server, like, and I'm guilty of it too, that are like hounding at you for it. I remember when you thought about canceling it, and like we were just like, nah, you don't get to cancel this.
Yeah, that's the thing. The Let's Watches, I really enjoy doing them, but it's one of those things where I'm either not feeling the mood to do it, or like I would do like a whole series of like 10 weeks of doing these, and then like, well, no one's watched them for 3 weeks straight, so now I'm not going to do it this week. But when I brought it back, like you and a bunch of other people really wanted it, like have demanded like, hey, let's watch this video, let's watch that video. I'm like, you know what, I can't say no. I got to bring it back. So it's one of those where there's a lot of people who really, really love it, and I can't say no.
So switching gears, we're gonna jump back into Machinima. Like we all know how hard it is to get female voice talent in Machinima, especially. But you did something, frankly, not really anybody had seen before in a huge Machinima project. I mean, like there's been casts like in Angel on My Shoulder doing girl stuff, but we've never really seen on a full scale like a huge series where it's just a female cast.
Yep.
Like, tell me how that process of getting all those voice actresses for Reclaimer was.
It was a bit of a messy process, not gonna lie. I remember when I first talked about doing it. It was around the time when Lone Wolves first started releasing, and I don't remember what inspired me, but I was like, you know what? There's not a lot of female machinimas out there. Let's just do like a whole female show. And I remember talking to a bunch of creators about it, like, hey, what's your stance on, getting like a lot of female voice actresses and everything? And a lot of people are like, Dan, don't do it. You're not going to get a lot of people who are going to submit auditions for this, or even, you're not going to get the amount of talent that you want for it. And I've seen machinimas where there's like the main character is female or a couple female characters, but I was even looking at my shows and I'm like Perfect Soldier Evolution had one female in it, maybe two. And then Elimination was about like 50-50 male, female. And then Lone Wolves was very much a male predominant show. And and I just figured I have to do something, just not like I want to do something that's just geared towards, the female audience in the machinima community, because there's a lot of female what's the word? Not audience, but like there's a lot of people who are female, who enjoy machinimas, who, love gaming, love Halo, and I feel like I should at least cater to those people as well. And when I was doing the Reclaimer cast auditions, our first auditions, we didn't really get a lot of people, not gonna lie. But in our first audition, we found the voice actress for Wendy, the voice actress for Echo, and a couple of others. But then we actually did a second audition just to kind of see, okay, who else can we get? And that's when we got Delilah, the main villain. We got Twilight, who was another main character, and everything else just kind of fell into place. So all we did was just 2 casting call auditions, and a couple months apart, and we managed to fill up our entire cast, and we had a lot of minor voice roles that were also female as well. So it was just one of those things where it was a little messy at first, because we put out that first audition and realized, okay, not a lot of people auditioned for this, but the second audition, we got a lot of people. So it's one of those where it's doable, it's possible. You could find an all-female cast if you know where to look, but yeah, just forewarning, you may not find the perfect cast the first try around, but they're out there. There are female cast members who want to be a part of machinimas. So if you just, make it known, make it heard that you are trying to do a female show with female voice actresses and voice talents, you will find them.
So I got to ask on that point. Am I the only person who came to you asking for female voice actresses because of Reclaimer, or has been there other people?
There have been other people who have asked for help finding female voice actresses and voice talent. I'm trying to think who else recently, but I know there's a lot of female voice actresses and talent in this community. I just interacted with someone, I don't remember her full name, but I think it was like Kata J. Frost or something like that.
Yes.
She's really talented, and, very up-and-coming voice actress, and she's done a lot of good things for, I think, Extra Ninja and Oh my gosh.
And you connected with me with her.
Yes.
That's how I found her. So.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where like there are a lot of female voice actresses in this community. It's one of those things where like you just have to know, which servers they might be in, and where they feel comfortable, interacting with certain directors and everything. And it's one of those things where, I mean, I don't want to bring up this. I don't want to make this subject, uncomfortable for anyone. But I mean, there have been a couple of bad directors here and there over the past few years who have, have communicated with female voice talent and have steered them away, and have either said inappropriate things or have, harassed them, or they basically leave the communities. And it's really a shame and awful that, that there are, I mean, we're all kind of growing up in this community. I mean, there are some people who are very young. Like I said, Cannon's very young. He's, I think, 14 years old now. So there are people who are, a little bit on the younger spectrum, and some people may not just understand how to communicate with other people. But, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, you have to, if you want a full female cast machinima, it's one of those things where, like, you kind of have to know where to look, and rightfully so, because there are a lot of very great female voice actresses who are in this community who, have either been harassed by, immature directors, or, people who have just left because, they don't want to be typecast as the damsel in distress anymore. It's just one of those things where, like, if you're making a machinima about female cast, I always say, make the characters interesting. And I say this for every story too. Like, make your characters interesting and fascinating. Always write interesting storylines and make your characters, like, enjoyable to watch. Even if one of those characters is, rough around the edges, or, maybe a little bit tough for the other characters to communicate with, make her interesting, and you will find people who would want to voice that character. So it's one of those things where, like I said, it does require some searching and knowing where to find these people and who to talk to. But, it's there's female voice actresses out there. There's a lot of female machinima creators who want to be a part of these machinimas. So they're out there.
And yeah, and I think on that point, I think there's not an issue with there being like a relationship in a machinima, or the female character being a damsel in some area. It's just making that character actually interesting, and not making that whole personality being that love interest. And I think that's what we've had. There's been issues of that in the past machinimas, of it just male dominant cast, and the female is just kind of there to support the male character. Let alone being their own character.
Yeah, that's kind of been a problem that and it's one of those things where, like, I mean, I fell victim to that too when I made my first show in 2010. I don't know if maybe it's just, you're a guy at high school, and, you're still new to the world, so you don't really know how relationships really work outside of high school. But, I mean, my first machinima was like that, where I had a female character who was a really, really tough, scientist type character. But she, like you said, was there to just support the main cast. And, it wasn't until, like, a couple of years when I came back, I didn't realize, like, man, I always talk about how much I hate my first show, and people always say it's actually pretty good, and I'm like, I still hate it. But yeah, it's one of those things where, like, you don't just typecast, a very talented female voice actress, because, we made Reclaimer, and we have characters who are like the strong, independent type, and then the type who are, sometimes a little afraid, or a little bit, worried about the situation. And then there's the type who's the leader. And then there's it's one of those things where, like, if you could write a show for male cast, it's no different than doing it for a female cast. Like, just make your characters just as interesting as you would for the male characters. But, obviously make the female characters, female, and create storylines that, women will enjoy more than men. But it's one of those things where, like like it's really not that difficult to create a show centered around all these women who are all different, who are all unique, and who all have, their own stories and their own personalities. It's one of those things where, like, whenever I write a character, I always chat with the voice actor first for a little bit, kind of get to know who they are. And that's when I'm like, okay, well, this person's personality is a little bit more, they're a little more extroverted. They're a little bit more, outspoken about their stances on certain issues. So let me bring that into their character a little bit more and make their character a little bit more of who they are. And that's what makes it very unique and interesting. So it's, I don't know. Sorry, I tend to go on rants.
No, I was enjoying just listening to you.
Thank you.
That's the whole point of a podcast, right?
That's true. Yep, exactly.
So I don't know if you saw this question coming, but I need to ask,
Mm-hmm.
Why Halo 4? Counting Lone Wolf's Extraction, 4 out of 5 of your series will have been in Halo 4.
Yep.
What do you like about it, and will you ever move to Halo Infinite or other games?
So, why Halo 4? Because
the big question.
Good question. Yes, I had a lot of problems with Halo 5, and I know a lot of people. You either really, really love the game or really hate the game. What I've noticed, and this was a conversation that I had with Lost Hobo Films when I came back. He said, and I quote, he hates Halo 5. He has had so many problems with it, and I don't blame him. I've tried to do a machinima in Halo 5, and the first problem, of course, is the lack of split screen. And for me, when I am filming, like, there are some days where, like, I come home from work, 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and, I'm a little tired, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, let me film this one quick dialogue scene. With Halo 4, I could do that. I could have 4 players on screen at once. Like, okay, let me have Reynolds talk to Hudson real quick about something. Okay, there, I filmed the scene. It's done. I could edit it tomorrow, and it's out of the way. But with Halo 5, it's like you come home, okay, well, now I have to see if one of my buddies is free. Oh, they're not free. Well, let me see if the other guy is free. Well, he's not free. Well, I guess I can't film tonight. So that's the first problem. But the other problem with Halo 5 is I've had a lot of glitches with the game. I've had so many theater shots and clips just get corrupted to the point where I'm like, I don't even want to try to film in Halo 5 because this huge big battle scene that I just spent 4 hours filming is gone, and I have no way to access it. So it's one of those things where, like, I've had problems with Halo 5. Halo 3, I have wanted to do a Halo 3 machinima for so long, and every time I try to, I just end up using Halo Reach. And Halo Infinite, I want to move to Halo Infinite at some point. I was planning on doing so this year in 2022. I don't know how likely that's going to be now, because with Forge and theater and everything, with Forge getting pushed back a little bit, it's one of those things where, like, I want to do Halo Infinite Machinima, I really do, but at the same time, I'm just kind of waiting a little bit just to see, okay, they're working out all the kinks with the game, they're fixing up these little glitches here and there, and they're adding more armor, they're adding more custom games and more settings for us to play with, so it's just kind of waiting it out a little bit with Halo Infinite, but I will get there. Eventually, I will make a Halo Infinite Machinima.
But with Halo Infinite, like, with its Forge, like, its Forge is most likely just going to be an expanded Halo 5.
Yep.
At what level does that... I don't know what your Forge abilities are, but what level does that concern you when you're trying to make a original universe and you have a entire complication of all these controls? And with Halo Infinite, what do you think of, like, new people just trying to come in and make a machinima and now, well, I can't do it as well because it's not basic items that I can make it with?
I love the Halo 5 Forge. Don't get me wrong. I trash Halo 5 all the time, but I love the Forge. The Forge is just incredibly amazing. But Halo 4 and Reach and all of them, and Halo 3 even, those Forge has always been kind of like, it's always been fun to play with, and they've obviously improved over the years and everything. So when Halo Infinite gets forged, I won't mind. I'm actually really looking forward to doing some cool things with Halo Infinite and, the Forge and everything. And just want to give a quick shout out to Last Second Films because they're making their new series, Dead Silent. And I've been talking with the guy who does all the Forge maps and makes all the sets and everything, and just seeing all the cool things they are doing with it. I'm like, I cannot wait until Halo Infinite gets forged. I can't wait.
Their sets are beautiful, and I will say that. Like, it makes anything we ever did in Halo Reach put to shame.
Yep.
And
just a simple set. Like, they made one set for, I think it was episode 1, with just a bridge, like a rusty old bridge, and this cool mountain backdrop and everything. And I'm like, even just that alone is so cool looking. And I want to build that so bad in Halo 4, but I can't. So I can't wait for Halo Infinite Forge. I can't wait.
I'm with you in that boat. So Lone Wolves Extraction. Mm-hmm. Tell me about it. Like, we're again visiting Captain Reynolds and his team, and so what made you want to do this sequel of Lone Wolves? And just kind of give me as many details as you're allowed to.
Yes,
I guess
I will give all the details. So, Lone Wolves was, like you said at the beginning of this podcast, Lone Wolves was our big signature show. I mean, we have, oh gosh, I don't remember how many views you said, but that's
28,000 views.
Wow, yeah.
And that counts the you putting it together as a whole film. I counted that also because that had 4,000 views itself.
Yep. Wow. So yeah, Lone Wolves has been our big show. It, like, Perfect Soldier Elimination was, I mean, I watch it every now and again, and I think to myself, I could have done this better, could have done that better. But at the end of the day, Elimination, the sole purpose of Elimination was to kind of bring back this universe. And then Lone Wolves was like our show to say, hey, we're back to making machinimas. Here's an original story. This is where we could go with this. This is what we could do. And Lone Wolves brought in so many fans. Like, it exploded our channel so much that Extraction was originally going to be like a one short episode thing. And it was just going to be kind of like a dedication, like, hey, thank you, fans, for this, so much attention. Here the cast is back to do this little short thing. But now it's become this like 45 to 50 minute like short film. And it's one of those, like, we didn't anticipate it to become this. We were originally, like I said, wanted to do just a quick, short 10-minute video maybe, but now we're doing like this full 45 to 50-minute short film, and it was originally dedicated to just the fan base. It was originally dedicated to just like, hey, thank you, fans, for sticking with us, for giving us the success that Lone Wolves was. But now we're basically making a full sequel. So the story is Captain Reynolds and his team, and it's literally taken off right after the finale for Lone Wolves, the finale of episode 12. And this takes place during the timeline of Reclaimer. So it's kind of interesting because there's going to be points where certain things that have transpired in Reclaimer will affect the events in this and vice versa. So there was a lot of things that when we were writing this, I'm actually writing this with Cannonbolt. So huge fan of the Lone Wolf series, and now he's a writer on it as well. So we have created some new characters for it. Captain Reynolds and Hudson. We have some returning characters, but it's interesting to see where they go right after the events of the show. And this is kind of leading up to our big like Avengers type storyline, where it's going to be Perfect Soldier 3. But it's going to be, the Reclaimer cast is joining up with the Lone Wolves cast, and the Lone Wolves cast is joining with the Perfect Soldier cast. And so this is kind of like the middle between Lone Wolves and Perfect Soldier 3 when that comes out. And, it's funny, like I said, this originally was going to be like a fan-made, like 10-minute episode, but now it's like a short film now. And, we have so many talented people aboard this project. We have Buck doing some really cool animations. We have Aaron Weatherford composing again. And so it's one of those things where like now it's like it's literally like Lone Wolves 2. It's this full-on sequel, and it's going to be so impressive, so cool, and like more than half of it is already finished. So I'm just excited to see what everyone thinks and, see where these characters go next.
Well, you're definitely getting me hyped for how hyped you are with this right now.
Yes, I'm so excited about it. And it's one of those things that, like I said, I've said this a million times already, but like this was originally made for just fans. And so there's a lot of, I know a lot of franchises and big movies are throwing out fan service things now, but like there's a lot of big fan moments in this and a lot of really cool things. And, it was, it's co-written by a fan of the show. The person doing the animations was also a fan of the show. And, it's just one of those things where, like, there's so many people on board who are just like, well, let's do this cool thing with Reynolds. Or let's have Anderson do this cool, let's do this cool animation with Anderson. And then it's like, whoa, guys, I am just as hyped as you are, but this is going to be epic. So we're taking this to whole new levels, and we're just so excited about Extraction. It's going to be so cool. It's going to be so neat.
That's awesome. Now, before we end this whole podcast and everything, I just kind of want to know, is there any projects that you know of in the community that you're excited for or that you just kind of are looking forward to seeing?
Yeah, of course. Well, obviously, you got some really cool projects coming out. The Innovative Monitor channel, there's a lot of really cool things coming out with that. I don't really know which ones I'm particularly most excited about. Obviously Recruits, season 5 with the finale coming up. Whenever Lost Hope of Films gets around to finishing it, I always joke with him saying he'll never get it done, but he will, and it's gonna be awesome. But I'm excited about seeing his season 5 finale. Last Second Films, with Dead Silent, I'm excited for that. There's a lot of really cool projects, and I'm sure I'm missing a few. Life is a Table 4, Fire Team Spectral. Oh my gosh.
Man, you're just shouting out everyone right now.
I'm trying to. It's one of those things where, I know if I forget something, I'm gonna, regret it. Oh my gosh. But there's just so many good shows. So many talented creators who are making some really good stuff this year. With 2020 and the pandemic, a lot of people were affected by that. So in 2021, there wasn't really a whole lot going on. But this year so far, it seems like there's a lot of shows and a lot of really cool machinimas being made. So it's hard to name everything because there's so many things coming out. But I'm just excited about everything. And it's one of those things where I try to keep in touch with every creator I can in this community. There are so many really talented creators, and it's one of those where I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot to message him 2 months ago. And it's just one of those things where I'm excited about every machinima project. Let's be real. I'm always excited for machinimas. Always.
Well, Dan, this has been a pleasure, and thank you so much for joining me on the Innovative Monitor FM podcast.
Thank you for having me, man. Thank you.
You're the first person, so you'll be. And so that's exciting. So anyway, what did you guys think of the episode, and who would you like us to interview next? Drop down into the comment section below, as we would love to hear your thoughts.
Yes.
I'm Camden Crawford, and until next time.
And make sure you guys subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel.